to talk about the Jewish question, if we want to bring up that kind of viewpoint of Western man being victim to certain forces, was because it was allowed, it was admitted, like it was with Rotherham. Rotherham was not the big bad Muslims preying on innocent little girls. It was the entire collapse of the community in and of itself,
Yeah.
on every level, socially, morally,
Spiritually.
yeah, absolutely. And that's how these things occur. Bowden said, I mean, Jonathan Bowden said something very important, very, very worth remembering, is the fact that defeat is accepted psychologically before it's accepted, before it actually happens. In the fact that one will accept defeat and failure before it actually occurs. So, and that's why, for example, the anti-jihad, and me and Margot had this conversation many times, but why the anti-jihad groups, like Pegida, etc., are all doomed to failure, because they don't actually stand for anything. The whole argument of all kind of these sorts of anti-Islamists is that Muslims are scary, please don't hurt us.
Yeah, and this becomes embarrassingly obvious when, for example, the EDL do a march through a town. Right, first of all, it just looks antagonistic. It looks like they are the problem, that they are the source of they are causing the. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, what are they marching about? What are they protesting about? What do they want to happen? It's inherently impotent.
All they're doing, they want to preserve their own nihilism, because Islam is a metaphysically objectivist system in a very primitive way, but it's nevertheless a metaphysically objectivist system which says there are rules on how society should be and how man should be, whereas these Western nihilists just want to wallow in their own hedonism. And that's what they want to defend. And it's doomed to failure, because you can't defend slime falling through one's fingers. It doesn't work like that. So what people on the right should be doing is being affirmative and being constructive and being positive and being creative. Everyone listening and watching should be involved in some way, shape, or form in an endeavor which is creative, whether it's raising a family or writing books or whatever. Building, creating, not just critiquing and sitting back and observing and bitching. If what has happened to broader Western society is the fact that people have stopped affirming themselves. Our people have stopped affirming themselves and who they are and how they understand the world. And instead they've retreated to this kind of mental place of reactivity, lethargy, and wallowing in the base of self and foregoing any notions of meaning in life. Then surely the answer to that is to do the exact antithesis. Is to affirm ourselves and our higher sensibilities, is to create, again, is to be civilized. I have to thank my friend Alex for showing me Kenneth Clark's Civilization, which is a documentary series filmed in 1969, 13 parts, by this very patrician English art historian, Kenneth Clark, not the politician. But I'd advise
his son was a politician.
Yeah. But the guy was very interesting. But I would advise, if people haven't watched that, to give that a watch, because it gives you a good feel of what civilization is, and what's lacking at the present day as you look around the world. So
yeah, that's Lord Clark. I think it is on YouTube. I think
it is on YouTube. It is on YouTube. Yeah, but I bring that up because the whole documentary series is about creation and about building and about strength and vitality and energy, not just about, oh, please, big bad Muslims, please don't hurt me, or oh, please, big bad Jews, please don't take my shekels. It's actually affirmative and strong, and it doesn't. The whole meaning and essence of it is not negative, it's positive, and that's what's necessary at the present time, because we live in a world of weakness and of negativity, and of vampirism. Indeed, that's all leftism is. It's a reaction. It's a no, but we need to start saying yes.
There are people who will actually argue that it is wicked to make anybody feel bad about anything. Well, bullshit. The only way that people actually become good is to feel bad about being bad.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And, and yeah, maybe some people can't help it. Some people are crippled, right? Okay, fine. I'm not going to shame a person who can't walk for not walking, right? But I will get in their face if they want to argue that they're just as good as the rest of us, right? And that there's no such thing as handicaps, and they're just differently abled rather than disabled. That's bullshit. That's a lie. That's a lie. And pretty much everything rotten in our society today is basically people who fall short of the norm, who deviate, trying to tear down the norms of society so they can feel good about themselves all the time.
Yeah, it's
right?
disgusting.
It's disgusting, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah, everyone has a right to some self-worth, right? But if you're crippled, right, if you're in a wheelchair, if you can't walk, I'm sorry, you want to feel really good about yourself, but you can't, right? You're lacking something. And I'm not going to be mean to you. Again, I won't be mean to anybody who suffers from real misfortunes, as long as they are not trying to tear down the standards that base and tell us lies that they don't suffer from misfortunes, right?
Yep. We have to be realistic about our limitations, right?
Yeah, yeah, and again, this goes back to all these questions, like the gay question, or transsexuals, or any other group. Yeah, there are people who are going to fall short of the norm. There are women who might be really masculine and not cut out for having kids. I'm not going to say that you are a bad person if that's really authentically who you are. I'll say I would say it's a misfortune, right? I would say that's your misfortune. I think that you should deal with it with dignity, and if you deal with your misfortunes with dignity, no sensible, decent person should be putting you down. But if you are in revolt against standards and trying to say, wait, I'm not misfortunate, I'm not abnormal, you're evil for having norms, then the picture changes. And this is why I think there's such a backlash amongst sensible people against things like gay liberation, transsexuals, gay marriage, and so forth, because they sense that it's not just an argument for tolerance that's being advanced. It's a moral revolution. It's the inversion of norms, or the destruction of norms, just in order for botched people or unhappy people to feel better about themselves. And we can't allow that. That is something that has to be fought tooth and nail. And I totally agree with that. Tolerance, I think, is perfectly consistent with upholding norms, right? It's simply the recognition that, okay, yeah, there's the normal, there's the ideal, and then there's the bell curve, and there are going to be some people on either end of the bell curve who don't fit, and we need to make some allowances for that. That's fine. It's when these people start claiming that they're superior, right,
Mm-hmm.
or that the norms need to be overthrown, that I think it's reasonable for there to be a backlash.
It's happening right now.
Yeah, it's happening. And again, so back to the thing where I say, we should be straight but not narrow. We should be. That's simply a recognition that norms, that traits are distributed on bell curves. You can uphold norms and recognize that there are people who fall short of it on either end of the bell curve, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But one of the books that was most influential on my thinking is Nietzsche's On the Genealogy of Morals. And in there, basically, what he does is he talks about Christianity. He talks about Christian ethics. And he argues that Christian ethics, the ethics of the Sermon on the Mount, where, blessed are the meek, right? Blessed are the people who are ill-favored according to the healthy standards of the time. These norms are driven by resentment, he says. The resentment of people who are ill-favored by nature against those who are better favored. And therefore, what they're trying to do is they're trying to invert morality. They're trying to invert norms. And so instead of pride, which is a virtue and a trait of, and a birthright of any healthy organism, right? To take joy in your good fortune, right? Pride is a sin now, but meekness and humility are virtues. That is what Nietzsche called the slave rebellion in morals. And basically, pretty much every sick campaign of the left is just carrying forward that slave rebellion in morals, right? Tearing down healthy norms to make botched people and unfortunate people feel good about themselves.
It sure is, and it's full of envy at the end of the day, right? It's
It is,
a lot of
it is.
ugly women who are trying to say that this beauty ideal isn't really beautiful. It's just what you've been programmed to believe, right?
Right. And we know based on nature that certain things are beautiful and ugly. I mean, it's objective. It's objective. Beauty is not just in the eye of the beholder. There are objective elements to beauty, and you can't change that. You can only lie about it and force other people to go along with your lies. And that's really what's bad about political correctness. Political correctness is a form of lying, right? It's a form of I talk about this in Truth, Justice, and a Nice White Country. It's a form of lying. In the racial field, political correctness constantly takes the form of injustice, where you basically blame people who did nothing wrong for the failings of others, right? So whites who have done nothing wrong are at the root of they're to blame for the fact that blacks don't perform as well as whites in white societies, right? And black crime and pathologies, those are exculpated, right? All that guilt is basically taken away from these people and put on white people. It's just a form of lying and injustice. And that's why I talk about truth, justice, and a nice white country, because our enemies are all about lies and injustice. Political correctness is lying and injustice.